Hi, this is James Emler, and this is the final project for Leadership in School Law. And what I've done here is create a presentation that I will be sharing information from this course to members of the three different PLCs that I'm a part of, three different professional learning communities, including freshman class PLC leader. I'm a member of the department heads and also the social studies department. Each of those have their own separate PLCs. And one thing that we like to do in our PLCs is actually share um, professional development opportunities. And most of the time during PLCs, we have time built in for this. And so this actually fits perfect into what we're going to be doing. So the first thing that I've done for my PLCs and for this project is created a Google form that I'm going to actually have all the teachers submit here. So I've provided here in the notes section the actual Google form itself. You can see that Google form here. And so what the teachers would do is there's short answer, there's multiple choice, actually fill in the blank, and other multiple choice. And I've shared that link with you that you can access and look at the different questions. Now, what my plan is here, what my goal is when you see uh, those is to discuss the results. Okay, it's not to grade how much they know, it is to see what they think they know and where their gap is. See, I think that's really important is trying to figure out what's the gap in your knowledge. Because the thing is, we don't oftentimes, you know, we feel like the years that we have been in now, 2020, 2021, we feel like we don't know what tips the scales of justice anymore. We feel like school law is constantly changing. We feel like law is constantly changing. And a lot of times we don't even know uh, about some of the basic ideas, some of the big ideas, as far as how tenure operates and how some of the restrictions that we have with social media and our personal freedoms that we're allowed to bring into classroom as far as religion, or are we not allowed to bring those personal freedoms into the classroom? How are we supposed to handle school and technology, and then search and seizure, what that looks like? Now, what my next plan is here is to have a discussion again with the PLCs on how have you considered um, the impact of big ideas such as these? How have you considered impact of some of the school law issues that we've discussed? And what I hope to do here is hear any stories that teachers could possibly have. And I might bring up a story of something that happened during the basketball season. Um, but we're going to kind of jump in here to the idea of tenure. And I like to, with each of these big ideas, propose a big question highlighted in red here. You can't be fired, right? And what I really want to bring and emphasize to the conversation is that tenure doesn't necessarily guarantee you a job. However, it does extend protections to you. It does extend the idea to ensure due process. Um, and I want to really make sure that teachers understand that they're not guaranteed a job, but they are guaranteed freedom within their job. And here I found a great resource as to what the idea of tenure looks like from state to state. And this is in Ohio, where my district is, and how a teacher can get tenure in Ohio. And then that will just give them some applicable knowledge that they can take with them. Here, we're going to jump into social media for teachers. And again, that big red question, my account, my rules, right? And what I really want to do is I'm going to go ahead and show the next slide, and I'll come back to this. I found another great resource that talked about can a school official search for and look at my social media account without my permission? Sure, Absolutely can. If you make it public, it's within the scope of being public. However, can a school official punish me for my personal social media account posts? Well, that's where it gets touchy. So I want to show them this. I've provided that link there from the outside resource about this. I find it very interesting, and and then I think it'll help us after looking at those two big questions. Look here, what can and can't you do? And it comes down to being professional. You know, are you promoting wrong things? Are you promoting illegal activity? Are you undermining public trust? I mean, you are a public servant, and therefore you should be professional in your servitude. My district is extremely rural, and because of that, there is much like-mindedness when it comes to religion. However, we are still a public school. We are not a private school. And one thing that I really want to make mention of, and I even put it on the notes section of this particular slide, of uh, highlighting the difference between public and private schools, and some of the roles and responsibilities that each of them can have. And then talk about how within our building, we should attempt to remain neutral in the classroom. Um, Going on, discussing property. My district has been 1-to-1, and we've been 1-to-1 for 6 to 12 for about 10 years now. Grade 6 to 12, and each student has their own laptop. And this red question is extremely important. How I use it off ground, how I use a school owned computer off ground doesn't matter, right? Because that is what most students think. And it does matter. It does matter. Um, I love the this quote highlighted in yellow that I got from this course, and it said, "Students have less expectation of privacy when using a school-owned device." I just think that is such a strong point, that you should have less expectation of privacy. That you should understand it's a school-owned device. It's not mine. And I put, you should expect the same treatment too. You, as the teacher, should expect the same treatment. Um, and that, because it's school owned, they can be searched. However, when you start to encounter independent property, you need to ensure that you limit the scope to what you are looking for. Because when it comes to search and seizure, um, reasonable suspicion is needed. Um, when it comes to cars at the high school, I see students driving. Reasonable suspicion is the baseline, and the vehicles must be on school grounds. These are some common things that teachers ask about. And then the big one here down at the bottom, can we search a phone? And one resource that I've provided there is a PDF. Um, I'm actually going to pass each of these out, and what it does is gives guidelines from the Supreme Court and from a few different Supreme Court cases that provides guidelines for searching mobile devices. And I'm going to give the teachers time within the PLCs, give them time to review this and find what sticks out most to them. And then I provided two examples of things that stick out to me, including that, a warrant requirement may not apply to searches within the school setting. However, reasonable suspicion is needed to get into a student's personal mobile device. I also think it's down here. Down here is really interesting. The court held that general background knowledge of a student's past behavior or tendencies was not enough to justify a search. I think oftentimes we have bias based on uh, students' past behavior, and I think that is something that we need to understand, that that's not enough. That's not enough. That does not provide reasonable suspicion. Finally, within the presentation, I want to give 5 key pieces 5 key ideas that they can take away. That tenure, promises you protection and due process, not necessarily a job. That social media, the best way to use it is to practice professionalism within that. That you can practice religion freely, but make sure you have freedom of thought as well. That you should expect less privacy when using a school-owned device, and that within using or searching school property, that you should have reasonable suspicion. I've provided different citations here, different resources. I've provided the implementation plan. The implementation plan, if you click there, looks something like this. You can see at the very top, there are 2 different links to go to the original artifact modules, and you can scroll there for the implementation plan. And finally, I only commented on one person's. However, there were 2 separate posts of his. And the reason I found him, I looked for just who had 0 responses, and it happened to be Aaron Peterson and Aaron Peterson. So I commented on both of his. Thank you again for everything from the School Leadership and Law course, and I hope you have a great evening.